It's a great time to be a football fan as we are all deep in the heart of it, as all of our favorite teams at all levels have probably played a game now that the NFL season is well underway and college and high school right behind it. But as we take this little bit of break on Tuesday, let's catch our breath and take a look back in football history with the football archaeologist Timothy P. Brown as we talk about how every scrimmage play starts and the history is within that element of the game. Tim's up in just a moment to tell us all about it.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history, and welcome to another evening of talking with Timothy P. Brown of FootballArchaeology.com about one of his recent tidbits. Tim, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Hey, Darren. Good to talk to you. Good to see you again. And this topic we're going to talk about should be a snap, or it could be tricky as well. Could be.
Could be tricky. Could be. That's some tough navigating of words here to get into that segue, but we have a great topic tonight based on your recent tidbit. It's titled "A Look Back at Snapping Between the Quarterback's Legs." So this has got some interesting merit to the title. Why don't you tell us about it?
Sure. You know, this is one of those things where I was, I kind of started the story with, and I probably need to develop this in a whole separate tidbit, but it's just kind of, when you think about football, its rules change constantly. And the game has evolved so much, despite the dead ball era in baseball and this and that. I mean, fundamentally, baseball is still baseball. They just haven't changed the rules that much.
Mm-hmm.
Football is, different eras. The rules change so much, and the nature of the players and everything. So, and I think part of that is just it's the nature of, you've got structured plays and episodic plays. You stop and start, and there's a structured process, and then you got 22 guys, or 24 if you're in Canada. You got all these guys on the field, and so then coaches end up tweaking and coming up with new tactics, and then the rules have to adapt to those tactics, because they either like them or they don't. They're safe or they're not. They make the offense too effective or the defense too effective. So they got to, they're always trying to strike this balance. So they're constantly juggling the rules. And so one example of that juggling is, comes down to the issues of, how do you snap the ball? What is a legal snap? And so, back in the old day, they'd snap the ball, first they snapped it with their feet, and then they snapped it with their hands, and they'd snap it to the quarterback, who didn't have his hands directly under center. He didn't have his hands up against the center's butt. He was a foot or two back or to the side, and he kind of snap it back, and you'd catch it and then go, the quarterback could do what quarterbacks do. So it wasn't really until, like snapping between the quarterback's legs wasn't even something that you could do until 1940, really, when the T formation came in and quarterbacks started putting their hands under the center and against his, right under his butt. So then at that point it became, okay, well, maybe we could trick some of these guys, by snapping. Instead of giving it to the quarterback, we still do a direct snap to a back further back, 5 yards back or 4 yards back. But by then, they had changed the rules, because they had to have a rule, like starting in like 1912 or so. They did this, but the quarterback had to be, to be considered a back, you had to be at least 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage, because they didn't want confusion about who's eligible and who's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And both for the officials and for the opposing team. So then they eventually moved to, um, I think about the time that the T formation came in, then they also instituted a rule that said if the quarterback puts his hands under center, then he has to get the snap. You can't snap it to anybody else. And so, despite the fact that the rule existed, there were a few teams that would snap it between his legs and try to get away with it and see if you know, if the officials could catch it or not. Um, but word got around about what was going on, and so everybody became aware of it. And then in '46, Dana Bible, the Texas coach who was on the rules committee, said, "Let's just let him do this," because it's like
Hmm.
it adds a level of creativity to the game. And so then it became a thing. And so it's actually kind of cool, really. I kind of broke it down as there were like three things that teams did when they snapped between the quarterback's legs. All of them were, based, it's trickeration, in one form or another. But so one of the things they did was just um, it was to either punt the ball or so they'd snap it like if you put the quarterback under center, then he could either make a call or they could have predetermined it, but based on how the defense is aligned, he might say, "Let's do a quarterback sneak," and whoop, gain the yard or two that he needs. Or if that's not looking good, he makes the call and they snap it back to a back who punts it. Right. So it's kind of this choice, quarterback sneak or punt choice. It's a run punt option. That's a good one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, RPO. Um, so then, so that was one, the RPO. I'm writing that down. RPO. Um, and then, then the other one would be, so a lot of teams were, still doing direct snap to single wing or some kind of those kinds of offenses. So some teams would snap to a back who would do some kind of spinner, half spin, spin and a half, spinner, and so it was all this trickeration. Not only did you snap between the quarterback's legs, but then it's like, okay, who's got the ball? All the confusion that comes with spinning. So that was number two. And then the third one was snapping to a single back. So, like, say, a double wing formation, you got the fullback back there, and you got two wings off to the sides. And then you'd snap it to the fullback, who would either run it up the gut, take it around the end, in a sweep, or pass it, right? And then, so, that's kind of a cool thing that happened, kind of a moment in time. And then all that stuff kind of disappeared after the 50s. Like Barry Switzer, would tell a story that, he was a center on the 55 Arkansas team, and they had one of the best punters in the country. So he would do the snap between the quarterback's legs to the punter, who was also the fullback. And so they used that, quite frequently. But like around that time, it all kind of disappeared, other than like high schools. There's every state has a bunch of high schools that are into all this trickery type, oddball offenses to make it hard to prepare for. And, nothing wrong with that. It's just, but nobody does that really at the college level. And so, but now in the past 4 or 5 years, when people started doing Wildcats, maybe now 10 years ago or however long it's been, people started doing Wildcats, and people are just being more inventive and doing kind of crazy things. And so now all of a sudden we're seeing, it's legal again, or still. So we're seeing more teams snapping between the quarterback's legs. And so the tidbit itself actually has, little films, YouTubes of, Texas doing it, and like Texas Tech or Auburn, whatever,
Mhm.
different teams. And it's just kind of fun to watch. Even the Detroit Lions, there's a little clip of the Lions doing it. Um, so it's just kind of fun. It's just a goofy little play. Guys have fun with it, and at least the ones that are on film, they were successful. So
Yeah.
there's probably others where they're not successful, and so we don't show those. But it's
Yeah.
just kind of a goofy. It's a goofy thing, just a strange little rule that. Um, I mean, so many football rules are to prevent some coach from taking advantage of some crazy situation. But this is one where they said, no, let's let them do it. Let's let them have some fun. And so, it sat and did nothing for a long time, and now all of a sudden it's kind of popular again. So
Yeah,
kind of fun.
yeah, it definitely is. It's really fun to watch these videos that you just mentioned. And folks, if you're want to enjoy some of those, we have the links in the show notes of both the podcast and the YouTube channel. You can jump right into Tim's page and his tidbit and enjoy, not only the images but these videos that he has on this one too. So I think you'll enjoy that. But Tim, you take some of these concepts that most of us in the modern football fan, as a modern football fan, don't really appreciate or don't really think about, and you make us think about it and enjoy it and appreciate that. And you do this in your tidbits. And maybe you could share with folks where they could catch some of your tidbits and be a part of this.
Sure. My site is footballarchaeology.com. So it's a Substack site. You can go on there and subscribe, in which case you'll get an email every time I submit a new story. Otherwise, just go out there whenever you want. You can also, have via this Substack app. If you don't want emails, then the app is a great way to get it and just follow or subscribe, and then you just read it whenever you want to off the app. And of course, have multiple books out there too. So if anybody is into the stuff, just go out to Amazon and find me and purchase volumes upon volumes of books.
There you go. Well, Tim, we love having volumes and volumes of your stories here on these Tuesdays, and hope to continue that on next week with you.
Very good. Looking forward to it.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.